Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Cutie Art Crusaders for October 30th, 2012. Man, guys, we are almost in November. That is insane, isn't it?
It's awesome because season 3, November 10th.
I feel like I feel like November's been like an awesome month just my entire life because like my birthday, whenever it was hockey was on, which is this year, but let's not talk about that. That's when all like the AAA video games come out, and now ponies in November, so November's gonna be an awesome month. Okay, first of all, my name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and editor of the podcast, and today I'm joined by
Burno1. I am the special guest coordinator and sometimes the editor as well.
I'm FlutterGuy317, and I'm the art coordinator on the show.
And I'm Pinky Dash. I do questions sometimes. when we have questions.
New thing of ponies. I actually wanted to bring up something this week because, as a lot of people know, season 3 will be 13 episodes long. I believe they cut it in half.
Mm-hmm. By the way, spoilers.
Oh god, spoilers! It's only half. Apparently, Byrne just learned this like today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where he's been.
I was too excited and blinded by the oh my gosh, the new season that I didn't even consider looking at how short it was.
Yeah, and I've heard recently that somebody has to confirm this for me because I haven't looked and seen if this is true. So I'm not saying this is true or anything, but I saw an article that was talking about the fact that the reason why they cut it in half, everyone was fearing some syndication, which was basically they get to 65 episodes, which would be 26, and then 13. And then they could stop making the show and start doing reruns. And so everyone was afraid that this 13 episode thing meant that they're not going to make any more after season 3. And while that hasn't been confirmed, I heard the reason why it's 13 episodes is not because they were doing syndication, but because they literally just cut the budget in half. Because they figured they could make the same amount of money with half the budget. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit disappointed with that.
But, yeah, but it seems like it's at least a better reason than syndication.
And I guess that might mean that there's more seasons after. But what does that mean? Does that mean seasons in the future? If this one does well, does that mean 13 episodes going forward?
What about 13 hour-long episodes?
I actually heard a rumor that might be it, but I think that was just people trying to be hopeful.
I hope so.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
Oh, well, you know what? Regardless, I think it's a good idea to, if you have half the budget, to do half the episodes. Because that means, the episodes are good quality.
Yeah, at least they're not crap.
Yeah,
exactly. And then maybe we'll get a movie out of it, too.
Or maybe if they realize that,
movie?
things change for them, maybe they'll go back to having 26 episodes.
Well, also, 26 episodes is long for a kid's show, like for a season. Yeah. Isn't it usually it's anywhere from 15 to 20 or something like that's normal?
Well, I would just guess, estimate that the reason why they had such long seasons was the Hub was still a relatively new network channel at the time. So we need programming really bad, so make an extraordinarily long season, Right. And that would seem to make sense in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I find it very hard to get down about new episodes of Ponies, regardless of how many there are. So
it leaves me hopeful that if they make a short season, it'll be quicker for the next.
Right. Mm-hmm. Who knows? We don't know, and that's the point.
I know, I guess, who is it? Megan McCarthy and a lot of the other writers have been tweeting, not to feel sad that it's 13 episodes long because they've got stuff in store for us. So.
Hey-o.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, we're an art show, right? I'm just making sure.
I think we're just a pony show. What?
I don't know. I thought we were a rambling show. Man,
see, this is
art?
This is the root of the problem.
17-something weeks, and I thought it was just a rambling show? Where am I? All right.
So, this week...
Awkward transactions.
Yeah. Rainbow Plasma, do you want to...
No, I'm making you guys do it.
Fine, I'll go for it. This week, we decided to do a certain pony as our theme, which is our first character theme. And this, we just kind of want to feature a lot of artists who've done some really, really good pieces featuring this character. And for this week, we decided to go with Colgate, otherwise known as Minuet, or...
No, I like Colgate.
Other names.
I think someone
Colgate's
I think on the Pony Wiki, her name's Colgate /Minuet/ I think somebody put Aqua Fresh. And I was like, okay, come
That's
on.
taking a little far.
No, but whether it's Colgate or Minuet, we're gonna say Colgate just because, and this leads straight into our first piece.
Yes.
It's called Brush by MN27, and the reason why I stick with the Colgate name is because the kind of meme with Colgate brushy brushy is too hilarious to pass up.
It's so
I don't know where brushy brushy came from, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think it's
I don't
because
know.
she's smiling all the time and has pearly white teeth. Maybe.
There's something about, I think there's like a whole brushy brushy thing with ponies and like regular hairbrushes, but then the
Yeah.
second that
Well,
they
yeah.
saw a pony that had to do with like
Oh, and
toothbrushes
her
and stuff.
minty hair.
She has toothpaste hair.
Right.
Yeah, well, obviously, but I mean, where'd the whole brushy brushy thing come from originally?
I have no
Ponies.
idea. We need to go to like Know Your Meme or Rocket Boom or whatever.
Ponies.
We probably should have researched that beforehand.
We just kind of winged it.
Preparation.
Yeah.
That is
Same as every
okay.
week, just ring it.
It's
We need to
It's
educate
overrated.
people on like the memes of ponies.
So, this artist is, we wanted to start on this one because I don't want to say it's more basic, but, it's kind of, nice piece on a white background. And it's very well done. The anatomy is quite well done. It's very cute. I don't see, quote unquote, anything wrong with it. It just looks fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's definitely adorable.
I really like the shading on this piece actually, especially for instance in the toothpaste on the toothbrush, because it really gives it this 3D sort of feel to it, like this depth, like it is almost a paste of toothpaste.
Is that a really small pony or a really giant toothbrush?
I think we can leave that up to your imagination.
Yes. Because that is half the point of art.
This artist actually did something really interesting, and this is going to be a little side note. We might talk about this topic in the future, but a lot of artists watermark their stuff. They sign it somewhere, or they put like a watermark over it. This artist actually, if you look very closely on the toothbrush, burned the editor for this week. Do you mind zooming in on the toothbrush? There's a little signature, MN27. And I think that's a really neat thing to do because it's not obstructive at all. It's just a little piece, and like that's it's just there to say I made the piece, because art theft is kind of an issue. So I feel like this is actually a really good way to watermark. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Gosh, that's small.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's
I like it.
No, it's very subtle. I mean, this could
It's-
get passed around through tons of like image mirrors, and like no one would even know, and then some person would be like, "I made this. There's my signature."
Yeah, I like the subtlety.
Yeah, very good.
For a lot of artists, it's just not really important to be like, "This is mine," and just like stamp your name on this. I mean, if you make art and people enjoy looking at it, having something very subtle as proof that you made it, something like that is, it's more. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm not quite sure.
Less
It's
intrusive,
a,
maybe.
it's
I don't
a
know.
nicer, less obtrusive
Yeah.
way to
We've
kind of
we're,
put your stamp on
with
something.
vector artists. We've encountered some people who've put some watermarks on their stuff.
Yeah.
And when you put
Huge
watermarks, it's hard because if you put a watermark that's not on the art piece, then people can just cut that out.
Yeah,
But if you
it's-
put a watermark on the art piece, then it obstructs it and kind of, I don't know.
It becomes
ruins
kind of
it.
controversial because if you put just your giant, huge, gratuitous name and just like bright colors, so everyone who looks at this sees like, I am this person, I made this. It brings up the question like, why are you making art? Are you making art because you want people to know that you made it? And are you seeking that attention, or are you making art because you enjoy people looking at it? So
Yeah.
Well, the Mona Lisa doesn't have a big block letter. thing at
that's
the
a
bottom.
bit far-fetched.
Does the Mona Lisa actually have a signature on it? Does it have like a
No.
little signature at the bottom, or is that on the back?
I would not have a high enough fine arts degree to know.
I don't know.
I think there might be a small signature on the front. but I'm not
Someone
entirely
send in the question. Somebody say if Mona Lisa has a signature on it. Someone go look at the Mona Lisa for us. Just travel out there and then tell us if it has a signature. Alright.
Anyway,
Yeah.
moving back to this art piece, like you guys were saying, no, I really do like that the shading on it. It makes it very have a very painted feel, where he just kind of throws in touches of white and different shades of blue, different hues of blue in there, giving that really like 3D feel. It's kind of awesome. And then we always like to comment on like the original style of like the lines, and I like how he kept the lines show accurate-ish to where they are colored. They're all the same outline color. Maybe they change in hue a little bit.
Oh, they do change, but you can see compared to the fill that it's
Well,
definitely an outline.
Something that is actually interesting is a cool concept in art is if you put a color on the outside of another color, your mind will actually change what it thinks that color is. So the outlines could all totally be the same color, But if we look at the outline on her leg in like the middle of her body there, it looks darker in comparison to the line on the outside of her tail. Where if we actually isolate them, they could totally be the same color.
I've seen a cool optical illusion along those lines.
I mean, you can use it. You can use it as an optical illusion, but actually in art, just tricking the mind to think things is actually a great tool to add way more detail than there actually is.
Yeah, I use it. I use it when I do vectors. When I do
actually
shading.
in a picture, sometimes it's impossible to make that kind of detail without using those kind of optical illusion tricks. But in thousands and thousands of like famous art pieces, they're, used intelligently like that.
Yeah, definitely. One more thing about this piece, I guess, before we move on, unless someone else says something else, is just the way that this artist did the eyes is very interesting. Because normally in show accurate pieces of art, like the pupil has a really hard edge, and it's like this ultimate black. But in this piece, the artist kind of gave the eyes more of a 3D kind of a glossy feel by coloring the pupil like a dark blue and giving it a fuzzy edge. It's just kind of interesting. It's different.
Yeah. This artist is very interesting because we actually haven't had this artist on the show before, and actually I've just found out about him or her. I'm not sure, but I think we'll be having some more stuff of his or hers on the future because. Okay, her. There you go. Then we'll definitely be having some more of hers in the future because we just kind of discovered this artist and she is doing a great job. And she does a lot of stuff with fuzzy ponies, which is a particular like of mine. I really love fuzzy ponies. So we'll probably be having more from this artist in the future.
They're so adorable.
I've been watching this artist for a little while. I actually am kind of a little bit big fan of hers because she makes some awesome Adventure Time art and she also makes some awesome Foster's Home
cool.
like crossovers with My Little Pony too. Very cute.
Cool.
Sweet.
All right. I guess we'll move on to our next piece, which is called Colgate Brushy Brushy by Soapy Solar. And oh man, this is just an adorable piece.
Soapy Solar is. I don't think we've had Soapy Solar on the show, and part of the reason why we did the entire Colgate thing. This is one of the first pictures I looked up, and I said, "Oh, this is why we need to do it," because there's artists out there that we, can't really use their art pieces in a regular episode, but they're just out there and they're so good. And I've been following Soapy Solar for a long time. He was one of the first ones I ever followed.
Every one of us are a huge fan of Soapy Solar, aren't we?
Yep.
Just the amount of adorable that he packs into one image, especially he went through this like phase 5 or 6 months ago, and this is when this was made, where he just made everything chibi. And it was just like, his previous works was like, oh man, this is adorable. How can it get more adorable? And then he does this, and it's like, what? It's insane. So I thought I'd add this one into the mix just because like you can't beat Soapy Solar when it comes to cute. You just can't. It's impossible.
True.
Yeah, it is. It's a very interesting style, and like just going through Soapy Solar's gallery, they have like a bunch of different styles. And they're all kind of unique, but it's just so cute.
Yeah, uniquely cute.
Everyone's distracted going to the gallery being like, oh, it's so cute.
Yeah. No, definitely the overall style and cuteness is just, it's really hard to go into just the amounts of how cute it is. Like always the highlights on the eyes, how he does the highlights, and it gives them like this illusion of, oh my goodness, cuteness.
Yeah.
And then like the little he always does the little cat like faces when they're smiling, like on the panel on the right has got that goodness smile.
Yeah.
No, there's not much to say about his art piece. You can go through his gallery and he does a lot of things very right. He's got a definite style to it, and that's something that is really interesting when you can spot something from a mile away as this person's style. But
very unique.
He also does a lot of live streams, so I definitely suggest if you're into kind of learning how to draw pony art, learning how to get your own style, he's very informative and very fun to watch. So I would highly recommend checking out Soapy Solar.
Those eyes in the first panel. I think that's one of the first things that are one of the things that makes My Little Pony so adorable is just that like they have huge eyes, and that that goes back to the whole anime style.
It's
But
that's the most common feature that what is it? People will look for in when like their mind thinks of cuteness. Is the first thing you're drawn to is the eyes.
The eyes, yeah.
So like large eyes on anything is like instant subconscious of cuteness. That's why we think, you know, kittens are so cute, puppies are so cute. Babies, if you think babies are cute.
Now you've got me thinking of kittens and puppies.
Kittens,
Kittens.
yeah,
I've just seen a kitten.
the
I
eyes
want a
are.
kitten.
So
So
if
adorable.
you like, what is it? Over exaggerate the eyes, it creates this over exaggerated cuteness that really speaks to, like, your mind's subconscious.
To those people who like kittens.
And like the show definitely capitalizes on that, and anime and Chibi capitalizes on that.
Just makes
Yeah.
me smile like an idiot every single time I see a picture of it. So you were talking about the anime style that he kind of
Yes.
has, and I think that's really interesting that you brought it up. And I'm not sure if you brought this up for a reason, but the next piece that we have, which is just called Colgate by O's JP. I'm just going to pronounce it that way. I'm not sure the pronunciation, but it's OZE-JP.
Who says
And,
Zed? Canadians.
Canadian. So
Canadians.
Z. Yep, that's how it's said.
Do go on.
So, anyways, this picture is really interesting because O's JP does anime style. That's his thing. We were just talking about styles that people have, very recognizable styles, and O's JP has a very, very recognizable anime style, and you can definitely see it in this picture here.
There's a lot of cool artistic features going on with this piece.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, actually. So as I was saying earlier about how you can kind of create the illusion of color, tints, and like what other colors are, there's a lot of that going on in this piece. The first thing is if you look at that really bright gradient behind the tail, it's very white. It's, you know, it's brighter, it's more saturated. So it makes her bum there look a little bit more brighter, as if the comparison to the other parts of her body. So if you look at her tummy on the ground there, the ground underneath it is very dark, and that's probably the exactly like same hue as everything else, but it makes it look brighter, and it kind of has that little peach gradient there, creating light reflecting off the ground. So I mean, all that's probably completely thought out. And then there's these interesting white like highlights going on behind her tail and leg, and behind her front hoof, that kind of create this illusion of depth because it's like behind the character. And what I find interesting, and maybe a loss for a chance to create some more depth, is if you look at that blue, I don't know what you want to call that, but just like blue panel over her bottom leg there, how it kind of crosses over her leg, so it's in the front of the picture. That blue line in the very top of the picture, it's not overlapping anything. If you actually kind of extended it down and put it behind her ear, it would create a whole nother layer of depth that our mind would be like, oh, so that's behind and this is in front.
Right.
And it would kind of.
He's done this
yeah,
kind of. He's
feel like
done this kind of almost like anime action shot border there. So it's like a tilted. It's like two tilted blue boxes, but because, like you said, the top one isn't overlapping, but the bottom one is, you tend to notice the bottom one more. Because your brain, and actually I was just learning about this in my psychology class, your brain, when it sees something else over it, it immediately gives it depth, regardless of whether or not it's a 2D picture or
Exactly.
a 3D picture or whatever. It automatically gives it that depth. So actually, that is a really good point to make. He should have brought that, or you know, it's not like he should have, but right, it would have been cooler to see.
Even cooler is a bit far-fetched. It would have been cool.
Yeah.
If they brought that
Yeah.
down.
Or it could have been cool.
You would have gotten more of that depth effect had
Yeah,
you brought
definitely.
down the top bar as well. But there's something else that he does in this one in particular, and also some of the other ones, but I noticed it way more in this one. The outlines are all done in black, but one of the interesting things about it is it's not only just black, but all the you've got like an outside outline and an inside one. You've got black and white. And so it gives that very shiny look to it, because all of the outlines are first a white outline and then a black outline.
Well, something interesting is you can use highlights like that and like white highlights on the edge or something to show the direction of light. But what this piece is very unique in is that it doesn't have like where light is coming from. The biggest directional sense in light is the highlights on her tail and hair kind of like shine right there. So the light's looking directly on her. So those white highlights on the inside of her body kind of make her glow. And sometimes they're subtle, like on her belly or arm, and then sometimes they go around like the entirety of her. But I think it's kind of like a cool defining feature of his work.
It really makes it her pop out of
Exactly.
the frame, I think. Yeah. Something that I find really cool with this piece and with, I guess, really anime style in general is that a lot of like subtle features are layered on top of. They're kind of not really
Please excuse that. Please excuse my phone.
Peggy Dash.
Blooper.
It's normally on silent. I don't know why it's not on silent.
That I don't really want to say that they're like mislayered, but like for instance, if you look at her eyebrow and also like the blush on her cheeks and stuff, they're layered on top of everything else, and it kind of brings out her expression a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Anime will quite often use that, like the eyebrow visible under the hair, because the eyebrow is used for like a lot of expression in animation. So if a character has really long hair and it's covering up the eyebrow, obviously you're going to lose a lot of expression. So just showing it through the hair makes it so you don't lose any of that in animation. And you can use it as a style choice, as OZEJP did. And then the same thing with the highlights on the cheeks, whereas like the highlight on our right would be like half visible, so you wouldn't kind of be able to see it, but kind of popping it off the character makes it kind of cartoony, makes it a style choice, makes it so it's really visible and it's there. And the same thing how it goes over her hair.
There's an interesting thing here that's being done that was also done on our first piece, which is it's like you always have like you have humanized and then you have pony, and then halfway in between that is like what they call anthro, right?
Anthropomorphized.
Right. But it's
Big
almost like
words.
this one's halfway in between anthro and pony, because I don't know, like there's certain ways that they're bending their legs might not be physically possible, but then you look at the other ones and you say it could be physically possible. It's a tough one.
It's very much.
I would find it
side
hard
of
to
Anthro.
categorize this one.
The anatomy isn't exactly show accurate, I think, in this piece. So I can see where you're coming from with that.
It's definitely like, it's a humanized pose, but it's done with like pony features.
Pony.
Yeah, it's weird. If you look at some of his other gallery pieces, like it looks a lot like kind of it's like a half and half. You know, he does a lot of show accurate things, especially in the back legs, but then the front legs won't be kind of pony featured. In this one, it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
The back legs are obviously. You know,
But it's
pony
always
can't
kind
bend
of
like
funny
that,
and
but-
cute in the show, because they always try to stick to a very like pony-like anatomy when they do something that would be like categorized as human, or something that ponies can often do, like holding something with floating hooves or whatever. Sometimes it gets to be cute or funny. I mean, Lyra sitting on a bench, the community just took off with that, you know.
Yeah.
Ooh, another cool thing is, I was kind of mentioning on the gradient on the belly, he actually uses this gradient a lot, and something to be aware about when making your own art pieces is how just adding a little bit of color around other objects can create other colors to pop. So if you look at her leg in front of her tail, you can see how there's a pink gradient on the bottom part of her tail there, on the both sides of her leg, and it creates her leg to kind of pop out more from the blue of her tail. And he does this a lot on the front of her tail where it meets her hair, and like again on her belly next to her arm, and
Right, that kind of
a
like
lot of
pinkish.
pieces, or a lot of parts in his piece, and it makes more features be able to pop because there's a different color or hue on the outside of something. And when painting digitally or physically, that's always a really cool technique.
Gradients are
Yeah.
it just makes a piece look like it has a little bit more depth. That's why shading is so important, because it's just a different gradient, and you can see that not only through like darker shading, but also lighter and just general like subtle changes, and it just makes it a little bit more alive. I hesitate to use the word realistic, but you know, just kind of
That technique
tricking yourself
works
into making it look a little bit less like I made this on a
Flat.
computer in 1 hour. You know,
Yeah.
giving it a little bit more depth and kind of bubbly,
Yeah, the technique that I would...
Bubbly is a good word.
I think round's a good word, too.
rotund.
What is it? But that technique I was talking about works with not just gradients. It works really well with gradients, but it works the same with color or tint. Probably not tint. It's normally better if you try to like change the hue a little bit, but it can work if you like...
Yeah,
darken the
gradients
color.
wasn't the right word, because gradients is kind of like it's like a technique.
In this, it's definitely a gradient, you know. If you're like actually physically painting by hand, I mean, you would have to be like blending color in, but I mean, that's a different thing. Anyway, but changing the tint and like light and dark of something and then changing the color of something are both things you should be conscious about when trying to create the illusion of depth or whatever you're trying to throw in your piece, which this artist does awesome on the floor and her belly and then on her leg and tail, and then with that white gradient right behind her because it creates her features right there to pop out from the features on the outside.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, if you like anime style looking ponies, then O's JP name will obviously
O's.
be in the description.
I like that.
And
O's
also
JP.
on our
O's.
DeviantArt
Give
page,
him our
if you want
own
to check this piece out, go check out him.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Fun fact, he's
our
also from Japan.
Ah.
Ah.
That would make sense.
Anyway.
Anyhow, our next piece is called Minuet by Ankylosaurus. And this is a completely different style than the last few pieces. This is definitely a much more traditional style. I don't know if it's an actual painting or if it's a digital.
It's a digital painting.
Painting, yeah.
It definitely looks like a digital painting. It's
It
just
does look digital.
the artist in the description says trying to learn how to paint again, so maybe she's using a digital medium, but she's definitely using brushes. Let's say just throwing this out there, maybe she's using Photoshop. It's a very commonly used thing.
Well,
maybe
SI
she's just
paint
using.
tool, you can still use brushes that kind of imitate actual
Can
brush
do.
strokes, you know?
Yes.
Fair enough. I was just saying.
Right.
I'm just saying as an example. Let's say Photoshop or Psy or whatever.
Yeah.
But using the brushes that make it look like a paintbrush, but
Yeah.
obviously without all.
Well, what's so cool about painting, like as a medium, is you can do it digitally or you can do it traditionally, like physically. And it's really cool to see them kind of like blend together because obviously these brushstrokes that this artist is using are imitating real life brushstrokes, but in a digital medium. So like you can really see that in the background, how those are like square brushstrokes and then there's some round brushstrokes. And then like the shading on her face there, it's kind of like you can see those physical brushstrokes. And it's really cool because you can actually see the technique which this artist used to paint features, especially right in between her eyes on that highlight there. The artist was creating some highlight and roundness by adding, like, it's kind of an odd word, but splotches of different colors and different, like, hues of that blue and kind of adding them up and piling them up to create kind of like a roundness or highlight, same on the nose and, like, same on the chest area.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because in a traditional sense of painting, you would do the same thing. So it's really awesome to see, like, that kind of, like, crossover on your computer.
This artist has got something that I think is really important for people to be aware of, which is that when you make a piece of art, it doesn't need to be perfect. And I'm quite guilty of this because I'm a vector artist, so the whole point is to make it as perfect as possible. But now that I'm starting to get into sketching and stuff, it's been hard to kind of look at something and go, well, that curve isn't perfect, or, that isn't perfectly accurate. But there are plenty of examples in this piece where the fact that it isn't perfect makes it look very organic. Look at her nostril, for example. That's just one swipe. It's not show accurate. It's not anything, but, it's
The
fine.
eyelashes kind of do the same thing.
Right. The eyelashes, one of them cuts off, or it doesn't go perfectly into like a point. The curve in her hair is kind of bumpy,
Or the
and
curly Q in her ear.
but it's because of the medium that she's using, because she's trying to make it a paint style. It can be very organic, and we kind of ignore those little not mistakes, but little like non-perfect strokes or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important. People can kind of slip into one style, especially when they have like one reference that they're trying to sketch with. If you're making a piece of art, it's very important it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to it kind of comes together in the end, It's hard when you're sketching to look at something and go, oh, this is good. Whenever I sketch, it never looks good until it's finished. And so sometimes you just need to do everything, even if it looks bad, and then sometimes it just kind of comes together, and it doesn't need to be perfect.
But normally not for me.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. Like, especially when making art or painting, like, just like get it out there and get it on your page and get it done, especially in sketching. And then it's really important as an artist, once you're at that point, to kind of step back and look at your art from like another viewer's perspective and see where it's at, what it's looking like, and then decide from there intelligently what you want to fix, what you want to work on. And like you were saying, I love how this piece is made like that. It looks very handmade, instead of very like digitally calculated.
It's one of these messy mediums. I know we've touched on this a lot before, like in our lighting and shading episode and stuff, but it's kind of a cool style where you can actually see the brushstrokes, and there are these imperfections that, you know, they don't really detract from that. They actually kind of add to the image in a way. It kind of adds to the style.
What I find very interesting is like on the highlights of her hair and then the tip of her ear. So like the tips of her hair in front of her head and then the tip of her ear, you can actually see where like the colors are dragged into darker colors. And I find that interesting because that's normally something you can only do like on a traditional sense when dragging paint, because there's less paint as you drag. Where on this one, like it's actually done digitally, where she's kind of like playing with the opacity and dragging it down and blending it into the darker colors. And on the blue right above her head, there was kind of like what we were talking about earlier, where if she just made the blue on her hair, just the normal blue right above the eye on the right, it would totally be almost the same color as the color on the background. So she dragged it into a lighter blue, and then even on the background behind the hair, she changed the hue there a little bit to make that part of her head and part of her hair pop. And her cheek there, a lot of parts of her body are blue, and if they were kind of that darker blue to create shadow, it would really, really blend in with the background there. But she mixed in that violet on her cheek, making it really pop out from the dull purple in the background there. And she did that a lot, especially like underneath the chin and adding the blue highlight on her chest. Or adding in lighter colors and different hues of colors onto portions of the piece, like her ear, for example, or her tail, makes it really pop out from the background. It also creates the illusion of light, like the pink light source coming from the right, and then there's kind of a white light source coming from like the top left, hitting like her horn, her hair, her nose, and then her tail.
Again, this is another artist. This is another artist that we just. Sorry, I'm saying we. I just kind of learned about because I don't know anything about this artist. But we took some time beforehand looking through the gallery, looking just kind of because we wanted to kind of feature the artists more in this episode. Our theme is Colgate, but you know, really we're featuring the artists and talking about their styles. And something that Angylosaurus does amazingly is the fact that all of these things, you know, sometimes you look at a thing and you go, was that deliberate, or was it an accident, or was it just a natural progression about these things? I guarantee you in this piece that a lot of these things were very deliberate, because Angylosaurus does a multitude of different styles, and they're all done so well in those styles. For example, I'm going to just pull up one example by Angylosaurus, which was a t-shirt design that she made called Apple Get. And that was more of a colorful, but like vector style, with, you know, very solid outlines, very, you know, firm colors, none of those quote unquote mistakes or imperfections in there. And so these kind of smooth brush-like imperfections and these lighting points that she does, those are all on purpose. And that to me is really amazing because, you know, a lot of people kind of stumble into things. And there's nothing wrong with stumbling into something amazing, you know, that can help you out in the future. And that's honestly what a lot of people end up doing. They just stumble into something and go, wow, this is really awesome. I should do this again. But obviously Angylosaurus is very experienced and has definitely done a lot of the things that you've talked about, Burned, on purpose. And that's really amazing.
Yeah, something else I just noticed on her hip there next to her cutie mark. It, again, there's that really bright pink hue and how her tail gets darker. So that really dark portion of the tail meets the really light portion of the pink. It really creates those parts of her body to pop. And something else that I'd like to insert that I actually just learned is warmer colors. So like that bright pink there, actually, as your mind and like even with physics, I don't want to get into that too much, but your mind actually sees warmer colors as closer to you, and then cooler colors like the dark of the blue of the tail there actually sees them as receded, actually sees them in the distance. So you can use that to your advantage, how like the bright pink on the ear, your mind will see that closer because it's warmer, and then we'll see like the cooler portion of the ear on the inside as farther away because it's a cooler color. I thought that was really cool. And then really cool. Fine artists way, like when they're making like in the Renaissance, whatever, they would actually play with that and flip it and try to do the opposite and make cooler colors like in the foreground just to like mess with your mind. And I thought that was a really cool concept.
Neat. Huh. Yeah, you can definitely see how the warmer colors pop in this piece, especially like on the tail and on like by Colgate's Cutie Mark and stuff.
As you were saying, Rain Plasma, I think that's a really awesome point to like be able to look at this and see that she made the decisions consciously. I love highlighting pieces like this because it really gives us the chance to highlight intelligent decisions in art. Because, I mean, if you stumbled across this, I mean, being either very young or not knowing very much about art, you wouldn't think about, like, you'd just see kind of like the colors thrown around randomly and you'd be like, oh, that's a cool style choice, just random pinks and violets thrown in there. But, I mean, they're put there for a reason. They're put there to separate things from other things. Like, just even the little tiny bit of purple right in between the crease, in between her eyes and her hair there, makes that little portion be in shadow, like, above the hair. And it creates so much more depth to the piece, adding what we could call random hues, but they're really not.
Cool.
Anyway.
All right. I think we'll move on to our next piece unless someone has something else.
I think I've about rambled enough.
Are we locking you in your cage yet?
Enough with the cage.
No, he's made some good points, you know.
Yeah,
I've got the keys, but I'm going to keep them in my pocket.
All right. So our last piece for today is called Colgate Has Seen Some Things ... by the Smiling Pony, and this is just a hilarious piece.
I had to put this in. This was one that I kind of picked just because I remember seeing this a long time ago, and it was submitted to the Vector Club that we were all a part of, and it was just, this is a great example of this was based off of something by Mystic Alpha. I've talked about Mystic Alpha. My goodness. But it's based off something called Call of the Derpy, which is just Derpy making a derp hilarious face and going derp. And Mystic Alpha, I think, holy cow, talked about that enough. So I'm not going to go into it. I'm still waiting to get them on the show, you know, Bernd.
Oh, yeah, probably not.
But this is really fantastic because it was a trace in a way. And we talked about vector tracing. So it was a trace. There's a lot of things similarly done, and it is traced. But the way that this artist changed it and kind of redid a lot of things, but keeping it within the same style, I thought was very interesting and very, very well done. Mm-hmm. Because Mystic Alpha has a very defined style. That is, without a doubt, you know, that 3D style is definitely there. But with this one, obviously the face and the ears are traced, but then you've got the horn and you've got the new hair, and that is not traced. So I think that's I think it's a fantastic way to keep it within style.
This vector artist also chose to avoid Mystic Alpha's style choice of shading with the lines, so it's really distinct in Derpy's like yellow to black, what is that, irises, and then right there underneath her hair and stuff like that, where this artist might be out of just laziness and how difficult it probably would have been, but also he chose to create his own sense of shading using different hues and different shades of that blue there, like on the head, and then again using normal like show accurate irises.
Yeah, I definitely did notice that. The fact that the shading has changed from that. There's a term for the shading that Mystic Alpha does. Do you know the term, Bernd?
No.
There's a term for the kind of line shading that's done there. And but again, I think it's really interesting how even though that line shading or whatever it's called is not there, I think the style is still kept, which is something very interesting.
It's very reminiscent of cross-hatching, but it's not, because cross-hatching...
I think it's like a version of cross-hatching.
The point in the eyes where those black lines constantly overlap, that is kind of cross-hatching. But those distinct lines where they trail off, that's actually just a very unique style choice. There's no real... Not that I know of, there's no real name for using lines that taper to a point to create, like, illusion of shadow. Or just, I think it's something Mystic Alpha just does because he enjoys it so much. And like, I mean, it's very unique. When you see it, you know that that's Mystic Alpha's like style of shading.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just want to put this in there because it's a funny face, and it's a combination of not only a base from a fantastic artist that we talked about in the past, but also a modification of that while still being able to keep the style, which is something really cool, and it's definitely something I couldn't do. because I'm not that talented. So props to the smiling pony.
Yeah.
Even if you did make some creepy face thing. And actually, you know, the smiling pony hasn't done it again. And hey, smiling pony, if you're listening to this, make some more of those because you're doing a good job.
Wasn't there a whole bunch of them? I thought there was just a ton of them. No,
no, in his gallery it was just
it was other artists like imitating this actual vector. Like he traced from Mystic Alpha really well, and then other people were like tracing his. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I've said everything I can say about this. I've looked at it too much. I love the piece. It's really awesome.
Yeah. No, as far as vectoring goes, there's a lot of unique style choices that can be attributed to Mystic Alpha style, but they're just cool to see that he left them as a vector choice. In fact, what is it? Mystic Alpha actually draws in a digital sense, kind of using vector tools to his
right, but he doesn't actually use paths.
Yeah.
But I believe the Smiling Pony used paths, which is interesting.
Also, major props to Mystic Alpha for the emotions in, like, pretty much most of his pieces.
Yeah, just about everything.
Major props to Mystic Alpha. Come on the
show.
Come on the show.
Yeah, Mystic Alpha, if you're listening, you definitely have an open invitation to come on Cutie Art Crusaders.
Shut up, Burn. You're the one who's supposed to be asking him.
This is a lot of work. Come on.
I will pay you money to get Mystic Alpha.
I will send him a letter personally.
There will be glops.
There will be cake.
All right, moving right along.
Oh man.
Okay. Anyhow,
Mario. Well, I'm not sure if you guys have anything else to say about it, or.
I think I'm good.
No, I'm all set.
I kind of blacked out all the points that can kind of be made about it. Sorry about that, but.
Oh no, totally cool.
Yeah. So, Pinky Dash, questions?
Questions?
Take it away.
Sorry, my mic was on mute for a bit, and I talked, and my mic was on mute, so that's why I haven't said anything. Because I kept having to turn my mic off because I keep coughing and I keep forgetting to turn it back.
I'm gonna interject here. Oh damn it, I'm muted.
Yeah, that's
we've
happened
got
like
some
3
sickies
times
on the
so
podcast
far.
this week.
Okay.
Burned and Pinky Dash are both kind of sick. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well this week we actually have some questions, which is pretty awesome. Alright, so let's jump into them, I guess. First question I've got here is: any tips for dealing with small or incomplete reference images when vectoring? Sent in by Zari to our email, I believe.
I guess I can start with this one. Is just look at a lot of pony poses. Like, if one of your reference images is cut off and you're trying to do a trace, there's bound to be something that's very similar out there. If you go onto the MLP Wikia, there's galleries of tons and tons of images of like screenshots from the show, and I'm sure you can find something that's fairly similar.
If something's incomplete, definitely try to make some kind of like Frankenstein or a vector where you get different pieces of other vectors, or even just different pieces of other screenshots or references, and like Photoshop them together and kind of cut them together, and get multiples and see what you think it like works better. Sometimes like get 3 or 4 and then use that to complete an image that you don't have. I mean, as long as you know the things that make a pony show accurate when vectoring, you should be perfectly fine. So I guess that's what I would recommend if you have a small image or an incomplete reference, is know what makes a pony vector very show accurate, and like know the little things there, which you can find out on the Vector Club. And then take a lot of references, and if something's really small, I think that's a great it's a great opportunity to like kind of use your imagination to kind of think of and complete different portions of the image. And as long as you know how to make eyes show accurate and how to make edges of vectors show accurate, and know a little bit about proportion or get references for the proportion, it would take a lot more time, but you should be fine in trying to compile the detail that's lost in a small image, or the portions that are left off in a cut-off image.
It's also useful when doing sketches. Doing sketches, I find you do the same thing. So if you are like if you're vectoring a sketch and it's not color, if it's really it's pencil done, so it's really small strokes, you don't know exactly where you're going, just make it up so that it looks good. That's what I do. I make it up.
Yeah.
You definitely stole my word. I was gonna say Frankenstein it.
Frankenstein,
yeah.
Frankensteining is the technique that I use a lot, and people say, "Oh my God, your vectors are so good," and I don't see any screenshots. Frankenstein everything. You take basically what you do is you'll take like like a 3/4 shot, and all you can see is the head. And then you find another pose that's a 3/4 shot of the body, and you slap them together. And obviously, it takes a little bit of work to make sure it fits together and looks right. But that's all you do, man. Just find another reference. Obviously, he's talking about. I think he's talking about tracing here, vector tracing. And so if you're okay with tracing, and I'm rolling my eyes for all the people who aren't okay with tracing in terms of vectoring, but if you're currently tracing with your vector, then feel free to just trace from a different thing and just overlay it in a way that Frankenstein's it together and no one will know.
Or just fill in the bits that you can't find with a sketch. I do that.
Yeah.
Also, word of the week is Frankenstein. Because it's
Frankensketch.
And used in a verb, Frankenstein. Yep. I think we might have coined that term on Vector Club Weekly, way back in the day.
Maybe.
I don't know. I'm not sure if it's a term that we made.
I think you have, and then all of us started using that word, Frankenstein vectors.
Cool. I'm laying claim to it now.
Also, I'm going to say that's the perfect segue into our next question. Next question is, how did all of you meet, and what gave you the idea to do a show called Cutie Art Crusaders, sent in by Wub and Tolerate?
Oh, wow.
Dibs. Oh, Wub and
big
Tolerate,
shout out to
Wub and Tolerate is someone who's always on our streams
Heyo.
and is a big frequenter to Everfree radio streams. So shout out to Wub and Tolerate. You are an awesome fan.
He watches the show more than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's because you're ordering.
Yeah.
I make this, and I don't watch it this much. No, you're an awesome fan.
So I'm calling dibs. I'm calling dibs on this one.
Go for it.
We've talked in the past a little bit about past things that we've done, shows, how we got started, but in bits and pieces. So I'm gonna give you the quick version, but full version. So all four of us, we all met through a club on DeviantArt called the MLP Vector Club. That's where a bunch of people would go to submit vectors, and it's a big resource, and we've talked a little bit about it in the past. But that's basically just a group on DeviantArt where we all met. And Burned and Pinky Dash were both admins on that group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we met on Reddit, on the subreddit for it, and then got invited to be admins, and then we were both admins.
And so through a combination of Reddit and through a combination of this group, both of them were admins, and then Flutter Guy and I, I think the exact same time, were also asked to be admins.
Mm-hmm. Several months later.
It was only a few weeks.
Yeah.
Oh.
About a week and a half, actually. Maybe
no,
2.
I meant the difference between Flutter Guy and I.
Oh, yeah.
We were literally 2
Yeah,
hours.
yeah, no, we were the same time.
Right. So all four of us were then admins of this group, and I wanted to kind of help the group because I was new to the group, so I wanted to do something to impress the group, and so I was and I was also on a huge podcast kick. There's a bunch of new podcasts, and it's becoming a popular thing, so I was on a huge podcast kick, and I just wanted to make one, and so I threw the idea out to the group. Basically, we got some ideas going. We changed it from an audio podcast to a video podcast, and I basically put out just a blanket statement saying, if you want to come, here's the date when we're going to be recording, and let's do it. And so it was me, Pinky Dash, Burned, Flutter Guy, and one other person from the group. His name is Sir Certix. We'll put that on the screen, because dear God, spelling. Anyway, so it was the 5 of us, and then Sir actually couldn't make it to the recording, and so he ended up, when we actually started recording this podcast, which was called Vector Club Weekly, it just ended up being the 4 of us, and then so we did Vector Club Weekly for. Yeah, he did do one episode with us.
He filled in for me.
Mm-hmm. But we went on for that for about 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks. Yeah, 5,
and then we wrapped up with 6.
So then, this will also answer the question: how did you get on Everfree Radio? Mm-hmm. Because that's also kind of in there as well. I got a message from Final Draft on DeviantArt saying, "Hey, we saw your show, and we're really interested in adding an art show onto Everfree Radio. So if you want to, then come contact me."
Mm-hmm. It turns out Heatwave saw our show and liked it, and then contacted Final Draft, and then Final Draft watched it, and then he liked it, and then he sent you that note.
Right. Was it Heatwave or 8-Track?
Or 8-Track, excuse me.
Yeah. One of the two. I believe it was 8-Track. I believe, yeah. So 8-Track saw our show and said, "Hey, this is really cool." Went to Final Draft and said, "Hey, this is an art show. We were looking for an art show." And so we kind of got together, talked with him, and after a few weeks, we came up with the idea to expand just from vector tutorials into all types of art. And funny story, actually, because we also get this question, how did you get the name for it? That's the whole story of how we got the show on Everfree Radio. But one final thing, which is, how did we get the name for Cutie Art Crusaders? And so we had a meeting with Final Draft over Skype, where it was all 4 of us and Final Draft. And we were talking, and we were going over what should the format of the show be. Should we go with just vectors, because that's what we're used to, or all art? And I said to Final Draft, well, obviously we're not very far along, because we don't even have a name for the show. And so we spent the next 10 minutes coming up with names, and there was some stuff thrown around, and blah, blah, blah. And then, out of left field, hasn't spoken for 10 minutes, Flutter Guy just says, Cutie Art Crusaders, and the entire Skype call just goes silent. And I was like, oh my god. And it was just I don't know, it just stuck. I'd like to say it was the perfect name, but to be honest, we couldn't come up with anything better.
Yeah, well,
but it's
funny
an
because
awesome
Flutter
name.
Guy, or Final Draft was like, people love puns, or people love play on like show names. So we're like thinking about obviously like show related names, and like we're all Cutie Art Crusader fans, and like we were like the Vector Club Crusaders, you know, like that was kind of our thing. It was like critiquing Vector Crusaders or whatever. So
and we've actually come up with like who of the Cutie Art Crusaders would each of us be, and Cheerily for Burned, obviously.
yes,
Clearly.
did
Burned
not
would be
hear this.
Cheerily because he's the teacher, and then you guys said that I would be Sweetie Belle because I sing.
Yes.
You guys are jerks.
Still putting your IP on the my YouTube
And
channel.
then I guess Pinky Dash would be Scootaloo because he's crazy like that, and then
I think
And
Scootaloo
then,
was the best Cutie Art
Flutter Guy
Crusader.
would be Apple Bloom.
Because
know.
buildings
That
like
last one's
making
not perfect.
code.
Maybe Flutter Guy's Fluttershy, so you can't really beat that. Anyways, that's how we got the show. That's where we started. That's how we got our name. So those are all the general questions answered. So yeah.
Yeah, and then shout out to A-Track for discovering us.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah,
And then,
big shout out. Yeah, that's great.
A-Track. Without A-Track, we would not be here, and we've had a wonderful opportunity to kind of express and explore art in ways that I didn't think I would be exploring art, and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
yeah, and then shout out to Final Draft as well.
Yeah, I've learned so much from Burned actually on this show.
Burns are smarty pants.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you to everyone on the EFR crew, like Final Draft and everybody. But like we've loved what we've been doing. It's been a lot of fun.
It's true.
So thanks for that opportunity.
Yeah.
And being able to get to talk to so many awesome people.
Yes.
Like, for example, that interview we did with Children of the Night guys. It's up to like 13,000 views.
Oh wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
We're really hoping to get those Children of the Night guys back, by the way, when they release it.
When they finish.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to get them back.
Yeah.
They get released.
Eventually, when they finish.
Okay, so we have a couple minutes here, and we have one last question that we're going to try to sneak in, but I want all of our answers to be short. So let's just sneak in this question.
No promises.
Just fire it off quickly.
Okay, question. Question number 3. Where do you guys draw inspiration from besides the show? Sent in by DualShock to our email.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go last.
I'll go first. If I can think of what to say. So yes, I use the show, but I also use like there's all these stuff going around the fandom. Like there's memes going around the fandom. There's inside jokes in the fandom all the time. I sometimes like pandering to those because it's fun. A lot of stuff that other people have made. I get that sort of inspiration from anywhere. There's nothing really real life that sort of I get inspiration from. Sometimes music. It's like there's something rolling around in my head at the moment. But
Do you want me to go next? Okay. Video
Sure.
games and recently OCs of people of my friends. Bam, bam. Video games, OCs, done. Moving on.
I'll go next. You guys basically,
Aw.
and anyone else in the Vector Club admins, like, we kind of bounce ideas off of each other. So yeah.
Look at this adorable guy. My goodness.
Hi. Well,
I know what I'm
I
wanting.
personally, what is it? Besides from like artistic content, a lot of the things that really inspire me are basically ponies in general. Is that like the show? I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure.
Yeah, it is a show.
Because my art teacher always stresses like make something you give a crap about, or paint something you give a crap about. Like, so obviously, like I have like my plushie or something, or different ponies, or I really like the characters.
You have a
that's
plushie
big
as
thing,
well?
big kick on.
Everyone.
Yeah,
Do you have a plushie?
Yeah, I think he's had a plushie
don't
for a
have a
long time.
plushie.
The big Rainbow Dash one.
What? How come I don't know this? Maybe I did know this, but I forgot.
Gosh.
I think-
Anyway, so besides the show, I definitely look to basically, well, okay, let me word that differently. For inspiration of what kind of stuff to talk about in our show, Cutie Art Crusaders, I look to my art classes, and I look to what I learned there, and I look to, like, my teacher, and things like that. But for inspiration in substance that I make, one of the projects that I enjoyed the most was my self-portrait. So kind of digging deep into myself,
Of course you
or like, what is it, just like mentally and things like that was actually a lot of fun.
Burn digs deep.
into himself.
Sweet.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm going to cut you off here because not only do I have to go very soon, but I'm going to make it easier for you editing, Burn. So
Yeah, lovely.
that is my only reason, because I'm such a caring person.
Edit that out. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So, that's it for this podcast. We got a couple of things to shout out, so I'm going to throw it off to Bernd here. Bernd, what do we have?
We have a DeviantArt page, and that is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com, and there you can check out our favorites folders where we have all of our episodes and the art that we used in them, and you can follow along as we go and seeing the art in a higher definition than you'd be seeing it in the stream or on YouTube. And you can also check out
stuff that we couldn't feature.
Yeah, stuff we couldn't feature, and you can also check out the artists
Yeah.
themselves, which we actually recommend.
And something new that we're doing starting this week, we're trying to organize ourselves a little bit better on the stream itself, because we've noticed a lot of people enjoy watching kind of live with us, chatting along when we premiere it. Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to put up a journal, a DA journal, before, about an hour or half an hour before the show, and then one afterwards with a link to the episode, so that you guys will get more notifications there. So that's just something new that we're trying.
And if you're watching
And
this
I think-
on the YouTube channel, feel free to comment below, and I'll try to respond as best I can.
I think I'm gonna try and also put up a journal like early in the morning, before our live stream, just so that people like throughout the day can find it and see. Oh yeah, I should.
Yeah, we'll figure out the formatting, but basically what we're trying to say is that we're going to start using DeviantArt not only as a place to hold our art, but you can go to DeviantArt and have everything there. You'll have the journals, you'll have the episodes, you'll have all the guests. We've added a bunch of stuff to our DeviantArt page, so yeah.
Cool.
What else do we have, folks?
Big
Okay.
Dash, do you want to do the email?
Yeah, why not? Okay, so we've also got an email address, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. That's the place to send us things like questions like the ones we heard today, any recommendations for any future artwork. So if you have, hey, look, I found this pretty picture, it's mine or it's this person's, send it into us at our email address and we can have a look at it and possibly use it. Anything that you've made as well for us, which is pretty cool. I've had a few people like that. One thing that I do ask though is if you are sending something to our email, please put what you are sending us in the subject line. So if it's a question, put question somewhere in the subject, or if it's art that you want to send us, put art somewhere in the subject, because the way that I've got it set up, Gmail sort of filters stuff into things for us, and we can find it easy and not lose things. We're getting better at responding to emails, which is good.
And we've also been getting a butt ton of questions, which is why I tried to sneak in as many questions this episode as possible, because we've gotten a lot of really good ones as well. So
Yeah, having like 2 or 3 weeks in a row of special guests helps.
we've stockpiled some. So if you sent in a question and it hasn't been answered in the show, I'm pretty much guarantee it's on this list, unless it's been answered before. All right, well, we've also got a Twitter page and a Facebook page. Those two pages are kind of linked with each other, so you can go follow one or the other or both if you want to. The Twitter is at Cutie Art Crusade, and the Facebook is facebook.com/Cutie Art Crusaders. We're going to start, again, like the DA Journal, we're going to start trying to add updates there before the live streams and afterwards, so that you guys can get all the information no matter where you go, so you guys don't have to piece together the information and stuff. So we're hoping to get a little bit better with those. I kind of run the Twitter, Flutter Guy kind of runs the Facebook, Piggy Dash kind of runs the email, and Burn kind of runs the DeviantArt page. So anywhere, any of those 4 places, you can go check us out.
Oh, and YouTube too. That's a new thing we're doing.
Right, YouTube. Yeah,
Yep.
you know, obviously youtube.com/Everfree Radio, where our podcast goes, and you might be listening to this right now. Yeah.
We don't run too much stuff on there because it's ran by, Everfree Radio, but we try.
We try.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's everything for this week, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is our first pony-centric episode, and even though we talked a lot about the artists, it is a good point. We did do a pony-centric episode, so we might start doing this a little bit more in the future, because there are a lot of characters that we would like to feature. And I'm not sure. Do you guys have anything else to say?
Do a theme for next week?
That's pretty much it.
Besides just thanking everyone, personally. Thank you so much for watching. Other than that,
Yeah.
Geez, Piggy Dash just asked, do we have a theme for next week?
Oh, good. I thought I was unheard.
I think...
normal.
Well, maybe you didn't hate yourself all the time.
I think we might... Again, we said last week we might have had white diamonds, and then we didn't. There's some complications there.
We were going to try to schedule her for today, but she unfortunately was really sick and had some trouble installing Skype. So hopefully we have her scheduled for next week. So for a theme, we haven't planned it out because we've been trying to get a special guest. So hopefully next week, White Diamonds can join us on the show. But if her computer can't handle Skype or something like that, or problems might arise, we'll have a theme thrown up.
Today our theme was done because I was brushing my teeth. So maybe next week I'll see a liar while I'm out, and we'll be doing a liar themed episode. You never know. You never know.
You'll see someone sitting on a bench or something.
Yeah, exactly. So you never know. Unfortunately, we can't give you guys some advance notice in this, but we're pretty good at what we do. So
And if you really want to see a theme, shout it at us, and maybe we'll do it.
we'll try and look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's everything
we've
for
got
this week.
quite
Thank
a
you
long
guys
list
so
already,
much for watching, whether it's on the stream or on YouTube. No matter what, you guys are awesome. Just a reminder for everyone on YouTube, our stream is 9 p.m. Eastern on Everfree Radio on Tuesday. So Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern.
11 a.m. Wednesday.
We put
for
links
Australians.
everywhere. Remember the 4 places we just told you about? Like, there's links over all of
there's
those.
links.
So if you want to come out to the live stream, there's usually at least 1 or 2 of us. You can ask us questions there live. You can chat with us about the show. You can just shoot the breeze with us.
And if you see us and want to talk to us personally, all you have to do is double-click our name, and it opens up a little personal chat window.
Yeah. So
And if we're having technical issues, then we'll open up questions and stuff.
that's what we did
possibly.
last week, I think. We had some
Yeah.
technical issues,
Yeah.
so we opened up some
Also,
questions.
trying to catch our show is great practice for trying to catch the new season, so,
Exactly.
Ah.
Exactly. Are you putting us on par with the My Little Pony episodes?
Yes.
All right, well, let's cut this off now. Thank you guys again for watching. And without further ado, my name is Rainbow Plasma,
I'm Burned01.
I'm FlutterGuy317.
And I'm Piggy Dash.
and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
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 Bye. Ha!